Hi everybody, this is the first YouTube video that I've ever made. Fuck. I never realized how difficult it was to make a YouTube video. Hopefully I will be somewhat uninterrupted. My children are home from school because we have sub-zero freezing temperatures here. So anyway, Granny Joy's Lasting Gift. It's a children's book, although it should appeal to everyone. It has a beautiful message. This book is available on Amazon. Just remember when you're searching, the parentheses that encapsulate the ing, those are kind of necessary for the search results to come up properly. Otherwise, it might not show up when you're searching. I'm not so concerned if people purchase the book. If they do, if they don't, I'm not so concerned with that. I really just wanted to get this message out into the world. The book is very special, and I feel like that if I have done anything before I die, at least I've done this, and I hope that it reaches people that might need to hear it and that it makes a difference in the world. So, without further ado, here we go. This book is dedicated to my family, to all families, to every living entity, and to Krishna. Wednesday morning, the sun came up just as it always did. The birds were singing just as they always had. Yummy smells were coming from the kitchen. Luna, at the foot of the bed, was wagging her tail and anxiously awaiting Clementine's affections. Today would have probably seemed just like any other day to most people, but not to Clementine. Somehow the sun didn't seem as bright. The birds sounded faint and far away. Clementine didn't even notice when her belly growled from deep within. The yummy smells were not enough to tempt her out of bed this morning. Clementine reached out her hand and began to stroke Luna's soft, warm fur. Luna nuzzled her head closer into Clementine's arms, and together they cuddled just a little longer than usual. When Mama came upstairs to check on Clementine, she found her daughter reluctant to get out of bed. Clem, honey, I know you're feeling nervous about the day ahead. It's perfectly normal to feel scared or sad. Your Grandma Joy was a very special lady, wasn't she? Clementine looked down. Yes, Mama, she whispered. Where did she go? Will I ever see her again? There's Clementine and Luna in the bed. Pictures are done by Jagannatha Das, and they're so beautiful. Oh, Clem, these are some very good questions. Why don't we get you up out of bed and downstairs for some cinnamon sugar toast and yogurt? Once we've had some breakfast, I'll do my best to answer any and all questions you might have about what's happened, and we can talk about how you feel as well. How does that sound, little monkey? Okay, Mama, Clementine again whispered. That's my girl, Mama said. Clem, you know Granny Joy had something like a superpower? Really? A superpower? Absolutely. Well, what was it, Mama? Clementine asked with raised eyebrows. Strength, Clem. She gave it to me, and one day you'll find that I have given it to you. Now hop up, little monkey, and let's get some breakfast. After talking to Mama in her room, Clementine was feeling a little better. The cinnamon sugar toast on the table made her mouth start to water a bit, and after a nice breakfast, Clementine was eager to talk with Mama more about what was on her mind. Mama seemed to know this, as she had skipped the breakfast dishes and had already started to make a cozy spot on the couch for Clementine and herself to talk. Mama had fetched Clementine's favorite stuffed animal, a very special panda teddy named Patrick, that Granny Joy had given to her on her 4th birthday. Mama had also fetched a few quilts and throw pillows and arranged them comfortably on the couch for them as well. Come sit, Clementine. Let's get comfy cozy. There is a lot we should talk about. Mama patted the soft quilt beside her and gestured for Clementine to join her. Clementine nestled deeply into the warm pile of blankets and pillows. Even though she was still feeling uneasy, a special safe feeling began to rise in her. Clementine knew that her mother loved her very much. Therefore, she also knew that she could talk to her mother about anything. The questions that she had were many, and the feelings that she felt were strong. Before she could even speak, she felt tears start to brim helplessly up and around the lids of her eyes. This was all happening beyond her control, and as the tears fell down her soft cheeks, Mama reached for Clementine and pulled her close. Clementine tried to hide her eyes from Mama. She knew Granny Joy was strong, and she wanted to be like her. What would Mama think of her tears? Clementine didn't want Mama to think she was weak. Wasn't it only babies that cried? Clementine was no baby, not anymore. But try as she might, the tears continued. Mama's voice was soft and sweet as she spoke to Clementine. "Clem, sweetheart," Mama said, "don't be shy." Mama gingerly reached down, placing 2 fingers ever so softly just beneath Clementine's tiny chin. She gently raised Clementine's tear-soaked face, just enough for their eyes to meet. To Clementine's surprise, there were tears in Mama's eyes as well. "You don't have to hide your tears, Clem. It's perfectly natural to cry. Do you see my tears too?" "Yes, Mama, I do. But I thought only babies cried." "You're very smart, sweetie. Babies do often cry, and a lot too. But it's not the same. Babies cry because they've not learned to speak. They cry to let people know that they are hungry or tired or in need of a diaper change. Sometimes they even cry to comfort themselves. Not so unlike you and I, but still not the same. You and I are crying because we are coping with the death of Granny Joy. When a person experiences the death of a loved one, it can make them feel many different emotions. Those feelings can often lead people to cry. This is a healthy and safe way of expressing or navigating through those feelings. Do you know what navigate means, Clementine? Not exactly, Mama. Is it like what pirates do? Yes, Clem, exactly. You see, a pirate's job is to navigate the oceans, right? They have to steer their ship through the waters no matter how rough their path may be. Right, Clementine stated confidently now in her best pirate voice. Clementine had always been quite fond of pirates, and often spent afternoons pretending to command a crew, insisting on being addressed only as Captain Polly Pegleg. So, when a pirate is trying to navigate the oceans, she has to be sure of a couple of things. Number 1, she has to trust her crew. Can you think of a few people you can trust when your path gets rough? Oh, yes, Mama. I trust you. Well, Captain Polly, that's quite an honor. Shall I count myself as first mate? Of course, Ma. I mean, aye. Very well then, Captain. Can you think of anyone else you can trust in times of need? Well, Clementine thought out loud. I trust my teacher, Miss Williams. She always helps me and gives me stickers and treats when I'm good. Oh, and Aunt Candy. She pushes me on the swing and helps me with my yoga practice. There's Captain Polly Pegleg. Very good, Captain. Now you have a crew, people who love you, people you can trust and talk to about anything. Your crew wants you to succeed and be happy no matter what, so don't be afraid to ask for their help if you need it. Now, imagine the ocean you're about to navigate or work through is actually your feelings. Just as the waters of the ocean can be calm and peaceful, our feelings can be calm and peaceful as well. And just as the waters of the ocean can become turbulent or unstable, agitated or stormy, so too then can our feelings reflect these types of disturbances. Do you feel a little stormy inside, Clem? Like you might need help steering your ship back to peaceful or calm water? Yes, Mama. Clementine looked down at her stomach. My tummy feels seasick and my eyes are raining, she spoke quietly, still looking down. That's okay, honey. I'm feeling that way too, but we're on the right path, and these feelings are very normal. Sometimes, though, we have to go through the storm to get to the other side where the water is calm again. But guess what? I'm here with you through thick and thin, and so is your crew. Together, we're going to be all right, so chin up, Captain. Are you ready to navigate your feelings? Clementine took a moment to think about what Mama had just said. Even though Clementine didn't like knowing that her mother was upset, it still somehow made her feel better to know that it really was okay to cry. Clementine had always known that Mama was a strong woman. She very much wanted to be like her one day. If Mama can cry, Clementine thought, so can I. So, with a brave face, Clementine spoke to her mother. Yes, Mama, I am ready. Good, Mama said, because I have a feeling that there is a lot on your mind. But not to worry, I have a plan. Let's start with some questions and I'll answer them the absolute best that I can. Sound good? Sounds good, Clementine replied, still a bit timid. Now, Clem, when a person experiences the death of a loved one, that person is often left with a lot of strange, difficult feelings. We will talk about these feelings more in just a little while. But along with those feelings, people often have a lot of questions that come to their mind. No question is silly, no question is wrong. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask right now? I would like to say real quick that if you are a parent and you're reading this to a child, as Mama is asking Clementine if she has any questions, if your child has gone through something like having experienced the loss of a loved one, a friend or grandparent or something along that line, you could use this to start dialogue. You can put the book down and you can just reflect and talk to the child and say, Clementine probably has some questions. Do you have any questions? And just start a dialogue with the child. I hope it will be used as a tool to help start dialogue, because sometimes it's hard to find a starting point when talking about these kinds of difficult situations. So if you just end up having that conversation and you don't get back to the book right away, not a problem. Read a little bit one night before bed, read a little bit more the next night. It's not something that has to be read all in one sitting, because conversations about death and dying, especially when you're speaking to a child, it's not a conversation that can address everything all at once. It's not something you can just sit down and cover in one conversation. It's a process. Hopefully, at any point in this book, if there's something that the child is able to relate back to, absolutely put the book down and just start talking with your child and pick the book back up later. And I'm sure there will be more relative points in the book as you read the story. And there's no rush, because the grieving process is a process that just can't be rushed. So that being said, I will continue. Clementine took a deep breath and nervously looked around the room. Everything was where it was supposed to be. Beautiful flowers filled the glass vases on the table and bookshelves. Candles burned on Mama's desk and flickered only slightly in the stillness of the air. They smelled of cookies and autumn spices. Warm, soothing light flooded the living room, reflecting off of the glass case where Mama kept her crystal collection, and bouncing back to illuminate the vases on the table. Clementine could not see anything out of the ordinary, yet she felt as though everything had been turned upside down. She did have many questions for Mama, but she hardly knew where to begin. Just as Clementine was about to open her mouth to speak, her eyes were suddenly drawn to a projection of light twinkling on the wall just above the table. It looked just like a tiny rainbow. "Mama," Clementine exclaimed, "look, a tiny rainbow." "Oh yes, Clem, isn't it beautiful? Do you know what that is? It's light that has traveled through a prism, causing an array of beautiful colors to shine through. A prism is a transparent or see-through object, typically made out of glass, or in our case, crystal. It has to be a special shape as well, usually triangular, like a pyramid." Mama rose slowly from the couch and walked over to the case containing all of her crystals. She knelt down before it, blocking Clementine's view of the case, but only for a moment. Clementine heard clicking as Mama opened the glass doors. Very carefully, Mama rose again and stood, holding something very small and sparkly. She walked back over to Clementine and sat down on the couch next to her daughter. She slowly opened her hand to reveal a clear crystal prism. "Oh, Mama, it's beautiful." "It really is, isn't it?" she said softly. "Do you know where I got this?" "No, tell me, please. Is it magic?" "Yes, I believe it is. Your Granny Joy gave this to me when you were in my belly. You see, the prism creates a rainbow. A rainbow is something beautiful that people around the world can see and appreciate. But for some people, it's also a treasured symbol. A symbol can be pretty much anything that represents an idea or feeling, or sometimes a belief. Different cultures around the world use many different symbols to represent everything from elements such as water, air, or fire to concepts like family and love. Many cultures have different beliefs surrounding the idea of death as well. Your Granny Joy believed that the rainbow was a very special symbol, Mama continued. Even with all of the science, technology, research, and data that we have today, experts still cannot answer so many of humanity's questions about life and death. Some scientists have come up with different theories about these things. However, a theory is not fact until it can be proven. These theories have been very well thought out, Clem, and they make a lot of sense scientifically. But in the end, we still have no proof of what actually happens once a person has died. Some people, like your Granny Joy, believed that these answers could not be found in a laboratory or in a science book. She believed that the answers to some of life's most important questions could only be found deep inside of our hearts. For Granny Joy, the rainbow was a symbol of life and death, a beautiful symbol to be celebrated. She believed that we are not our bodies, but we are kind of just using them for a while we are in this world. She believed that once our bodies have grown old and tired, or sick or broken, that we shed them the same way a snake sheds its skin. Mama continued. She believed that we use our bodies for about 70 to 100 years, if we're lucky. Once life in this world is over, our spirits can break free from our old or injured bodies. Granny Joy, along with so many other people, believe this transition to be a very special time that everyone will get to experience one day. Yes, it can be sad for those of us still left in this world. We will miss people as they die because once a person has truly died, they don't come back to live in this world anymore. Not the way they had before. This is one of the illustrations I did using a computer with like a stylus pen. I've never used a medium like that before. I have terrible lighting. I'll get better lighting. Mama paused again as her eyes seemed distant, but in an instant, her gaze came back to meet Clementine's as she spoke. However, some people believe that once a person has died, once in a great while, their spirit might try to reach out to comfort a loved one still here on earth. Some people may have had very vivid dreams of someone they love who has died. Many people believe that in this way, the spirit of a loved one can contact or speak to the spirit of someone who is still here in this world, someone that they love and miss very much. For ages, people have practiced many ways of honoring or even communicating with those people who have passed from this world. Some people simply talk to their loved one, usually in private, maybe in a quiet room, or before bed. In times of need or when one is feeling uneasy or stormy, it can feel good to talk to the person that we miss. Chances are, Mama giggled, we won't hear them speak back to us with our ears. That would be extraordinary. Mama again smiled and playfully poked the space between two of Clementine's tiny ribs. Clementine squirmed and giggled too. That tickled, Mama. Mama drew Clementine close to her again. So, Mama continued more seriously now. Let's continue, shall we? Aye, aye, matey, Mama. Okay, so if someone decides that they want to try to talk to a loved one who has passed, we know that it can't happen the way you and I are talking right now. People who do this know that their loved one cannot speak the way we do because in order to speak with the mouth, one must first have a body in this world. A person must learn to listen with their heart. Your heart is where all of your memories lie. Many people believe that our heart is like an open line of communication between us and everyone we love, even those who have passed from this world. If we continue to look into our heart and remember all of the wonderful times we shared with the person that we miss, then they are never far. It is said that keeping these memories safe and visiting them often can make a person more open to receiving messages back from those who have passed. And as I mentioned before, in some cases, people state that a loved one has visited them in a dream. Other people have claimed to have seen signs, kind of like a magic rainbow. Mama winked at Clementine. Clementine's eyes widened, and for a moment she thought very deeply about the prism. Do you think Granny made the prism shine for me today? Is that a sign, Mama? Well, Clem, that's only for you and Granny to know. I will never tell you what to believe. Only you know what you feel and hear in your heart. These are the great mysteries of life. I believe what your Granny believes about death, but not because she told me to. I had to learn for myself what was truly in my heart. Even though I believe that I am not this body, I still have many of my own questions about life, questions that I don't think I'll find the answers to in this world, and that's okay with me. Different people believe different things, sweetie, but I found peace in believing that I am not supposed to know everything about life or what happens after. I believe that love is the most important force in this world. I know we come from love, and I know we return to love. What happens in between has a lot to do with how we use the life that we've been given. By focusing on love and trying to appreciate the good things about this world, we are teaching ourselves to grow. When I talk about growth in this way, I am not speaking about our bodies. I'm speaking about our own spirits, the part of us that feels love and that gives love. We cannot hold it or mold it. We cannot sell it or steal it, nor can we break it. It is not something that we need our hands to feel. Its origin is magical. So what is love? You see, I know that I can feel it, and I know that I can give it. I know so much about it, yet so little. I've been learning and growing with it, and because of it, my whole life. I know that it never stops and it never goes away, which makes me wonder how it ever came to be, or if it's always been. Love is the seed from which all things good and beautiful come, and it lives deep inside of each of us. We can choose to care for that seed and watch it grow just as we do, giving us great happiness in this world. It is the question and the answer. And I believe that once I pass from this world, I'll learn everything I ever wanted to know about it. Do you want to know the best part? What is it? What's the best part? Clementine asked anxiously now. The best part is that love never dies. Clementine had to really think hard about everything Mama had told her. She still missed her granny very much and would have loved to hear her voice, but Clementine knew that she had to be strong, like the captain of a ship on a stormy sea. She drew a deep breath, straightened herself upright, shoulders back and chin up. She looked at Mama again and spoke with confidence. Mama, she stated, I haven't lost Granny. No, her mother replied, of course not, honey. Mama reached out her arms, again pulling Clementine so close that she could feel her mother's own heartbeat. Mama's perfume was sweet and heavy in the air around them. Silken strands of Mama's thick, dark hair had fallen loose from her bun, and Clementine could feel them brush against her own soft cheeks. Clementine felt safe. Clementine, I also want to make something very clear. Clementine looked up at Mama. Yes? What happened to Granny Joy was no one's fault. I know, Mama. She was old and her body was tired. Yes, sweetheart. Exactly. The reason I brought this up was because oftentimes people want answers, like we talked about, and sometimes they get confused and they blame themselves. It is especially common for children to have these feelings, but it's not anyone's fault. Accidents happen, or sometimes people get sick, and eventually most will grow old and die. This is just the nature of our bodies, so never blame yourself, okay, monkey? Okay, Mama. Clementine understood. But I still have another question. This is another very difficult question. If you're trying to have an open, honest dialogue with a child during the grieving process, I think it's very healthy to encourage them to ask these kinds of questions, even though they are difficult. And I'm hoping that this book can help parents or loved ones answer that question in ways that are not too scary for a child. But I think it's also very important to be honest. So again, at this point, if you need to put the book down and have dialogue with your child and then come back to it, absolutely do that. You can ask me anything. Mama, what will happen to Granny's body if she doesn't need it anymore? That's another great question, Clem. Let me explain. We talked about how different people believe different things about death and what happens after, right? Right, Clementine enthusiastically exclaimed again in her best pirate voice. Great. So, how a person's body is handled after they have died has a lot to do with what they believed about death and what religion or faith they may have been. First, let's talk about Granny Joy. We know a lot about Granny, right? Of course, Clementine squeaked. I know she made the best cookies ever, and once, when she was a kid, she had a real pet squirrel. She also showed me how to plant potatoes. Oh, yes, I remember that all right. You grew some marvelous potatoes that year, didn't you? Well, She certainly has taught us many things. Your Granny Joy taught me how to respect the world we live in and all the creatures in it. So Granny believed that every living thing in this world was special, from the tiniest insect to the tallest redwood tree and everything in between. She believed that it was our duty as humans to look out for one another and help those in need. She also understood how important it was to take care of the earth. She taught me how all of these things are connected: plants, animals, and people. Even the earth itself holds very special energies. It is a magical treasure that must be respected and cared for. We can show love and care for all living creatures by first caring for the earth. There are many ways someone can care for the earth. Making sure that we are not throwing trash in the ground is a good start. Planting trees or gardening is helpful and fun. Recycling is another way that we can help the earth stay healthy, and using environmentally friendly products can reduce pollution. Granny Joy was very good at taking care of the earth. She wanted to keep it clean and healthy for you and all of the other people and creatures who live here. How we treat the world around us matters. As we do things for others, the seed of love inside of us grows, and that is an amazing feeling. Yes, Mama, but what does this have to do with Granny's body? Well, honey, it has everything to do with her body. People honor and celebrate their dead in different ways all around the world. The way a person's body is handled can be very different from one country to the next, or from one person to the next. You see, in this country, the way people have been caring for their deceased or dead loved ones over the past few centuries is just not sustainable anymore. Most people in North America these days either have their bodies cremated or buried. They often have their loved one's body taken to a funeral home to prepare for these events. Some families hold a service to celebrate the life of their loved one, just as we will. Oftentimes, though, a body will be embalmed for a funeral service, and a large, expensive casket will be bought to hold the body. This is a beautiful practice in theory. However, it is not for everyone. You see, when a person is embalmed, a funeral director will replace all of the fluids in the body with lots of harsh, toxic chemicals. Even when the body is buried in a casket, eventually those toxic chemicals will make their way into the earth itself. Why, Mama? Why do they use those chemicals? Well, sometimes it's hard to accept that a loved one has passed away, and using those chemicals can keep the body looking more alive for a longer period of time. But eventually, we all have to understand that a human body is not meant to last forever. Over time, if people continue to fill the earth with these chemicals and caskets that do not break down or biodegrade, then our earth could get very sick. Oh, Mama, that would make Granny Joy's spirit very sad. Yes, honey, it would. So, that's exactly why Granny made a living will. An important piece of paper that explains exactly what she wanted us to do with her body. She made it very clear that she did not want to be embalmed with toxic chemicals. She did not want to be buried in a big metal casket. Your Granny wanted to be buried naturally under the big mulberry tree on Papa's farm. When a body is buried naturally, it can decompose and turn right back into earth and help feed the plants and trees. The birds come to eat the berries from the tree, the squirrels and rabbits will eat the plants. Then the cycle will continue. In this way, Granny's last gift to the world was her body, the fruit of the seed of love. As Mama spoke, a single tear began to slowly trickle down the side of her face. But Mama didn't look sad. In this moment, she looked at peace. Mama, Clementine said, I think I'm ready to get dressed. Mama smiled so tenderly at her daughter. They both stretched out their limbs a little and rose from the couch. Mama leaned down, placing her hands on Clementine's shoulders gently. She looked deep into her eyes and spoke. Captain Polly, it is an honor to be counted among your crew. Never have I known a pirate as strong and brave as you. Clementine leaned in, kissed her mother gently on the cheek. Still grasping Patrick, the panda teddy, Clementine darted out of the family room and up the stairs to get dressed for Granny Joy's service. Mama truly was very proud of Clementine and how strong she had been this morning. Clementine was growing up, and Mama felt in her heart that Granny Joy was proud of Clementine too. Mama gazed down at the glistening crystal prism that she still held tightly in her palm. Perhaps, she mused, Granny Joy was proud of her as well. Once Clementine and her mother had dressed and gathered their things for the afternoon service, it was time to go. Papa would be waiting for them down on the farm. Aunt Candy and Uncle Mike were probably already there too, along with Clementine's cousins, Hawk and Brooke. Clementine was not going to be alone, and even though she was still feeling a little stormy inside, she knew that her crew would be standing strong beside her. As Mama began to drive up the long dirt pathway to Granny and Papa's farm, Clementine could see many different cars parked in the distance, surrounding the modest farmhouse and barn. Beautiful ribbons had been tied around all of the trees leading up to the porch. Bright, beautiful flowers of every kind filled the yard, not just in the flower beds, but in potters and vases and jars all over the farm. There were long ropes of freshly cut flower tops strung snugly together and hung from all of the bushes and tree branches around the yard. People were bustling around here and there, in and out of the house that Clementine knew so well. Mama stopped the car a few feet in front of the barn. She then came around to open Clementine's door, and as her mother helped her out of the car, Clementine caught a glimpse of the old mulberry tree. It had been decorated with such great detail that even from afar it had caught her eye. Flower ropes had been wound around all of the branches, from the very tippy top to the lowest branches down below. It had also been adorned with a multitude of silk ribbons and lace, each strand flipping, flapping, and swirling with the wind. The air felt cool and was rich with the scent of freshly cut flowers. There were so many people here, Clementine thought to herself. She grasped Mama's hand tightly as they made their way through the yard. Granny Joy had a lot of friends, Clem. She helped many people during her life, and most of them never forgot that. Clementine looked around. People were hugging, people were talking, people were laughing, and people were crying, but everyone was helping one another. No one was alone. Some people were helping Papa cook in the kitchen. Some people were helping watch smaller children, keeping them from running off or stepping in the flower beds. Some people were still hanging ribbon and garlands of flowers all around the barn. Some people were helping show others where to park their cars, and others were walking around offering food and drink to anyone who might be hungry. Clementine was feeling stronger by the moment. Oh, let me show you. This is another illustration that I did with the computer, I think it's called a stylus, or the little computer pen pad. Clementine, her mother said softly, your aunt and uncle are in the parlor. Shall we go say hello? Clementine nodded in agreement as she followed Mama closely, but before they could even reach the parlor, Clementine heard a familiar voice call out to her. Clemmy! Exclaimed Brooke and Hawk as they ran toward Mama and Clementine. Mama greeted Clementine's aunt and uncle and gave her niece and nephew a gentle squeeze and kiss on the cheek. After a few moments of hugging and brief conversation, Clementine's mother knelt down in front of her. She brushed a few of Clementine's silky curls back from around her face and kissed her forehead tenderly. She looked at Clementine and spoke. Are you ready, Captain Polly? This was the moment that Clementine had been dreading the most. It was time for her to say goodbye. Clementine's belly began to feel a little icky, like how she might feel after eating one too many cheesy chips. This feeling rose inside of her and crept up through Clementine's chest like an uncomfortable wave, causing her heart to beat faster. Her legs became weak, and for a moment she thought about asking Mama to turn and walk away with her, back down the old, dusty dirt path, right back to the car. Mama could sense Clementine's reservation or worry. She certainly didn't want Clementine to feel uncomfortable. Clementine knew that Mama would not force her to do anything that felt wrong, but this didn't feel wrong to Clementine. She wanted to be strong and make Mama proud. She thought of Mama and Granny Joy and how strong and wise they'd always seemed to her. Clementine closed her eyes and looked deep into her heart. She thought about Granny Joy, and as she did, beautiful memories began to flood her heart and mind. She remembered so perfectly the first time Granny Joy had taken her to see the ocean. She remembered Granny gently lifting her from the car seat and setting her down on the warm, sandy earth. She remembered how different the air had smelled, but more than that, she remembered how Granny Joy had smelled, always so sweet, like ripe fruit or pie, mixed with hints of coconut and sunscreen. Clementine remembered Granny holding Clementine's tiny hand in hers, how small she felt standing in front of the vast rolling ocean. Waves roared and crashed fiercely on the rocky beach. The air was thick. Wild, booming waves met with large black rocks along the winding shore. The impact sent showers of salt water and fine mist flying through the air. Clementine had been scared, but with Granny Joy there next to her, holding her hand, she continued on. She remembered grasping Granny Joy's hand so tightly as they made their way to the water's edge. With Granny Joy at her side, she tried to be brave. Clementine then remembered what her grandmother had told her. "Little Clementine," Granny Joy had said to her, "these waters can be fierce and even a little bit scary at first, but no child enters these waters without a guide. When I was your age, my mother brought me here to learn how to swim. She stayed with me and kept me safe, but as every child does, I grew and grew. Little by little, I learned how to be brave. At first, just wading in the tide while holding my mother's hand. Eventually, though, I could swim in the ocean on my own as my mother sat and watched from the sand. Now I am older and it's my turn to teach you how to be brave, little monkey. Everyone starts with a guide, someone who will look out for us and teach us, but eventually we all have to be brave and go out on our own. This way we can experience all of the wonders that this great ocean has to offer us, and all of the great mysteries it holds as well. It can be dangerous and scary if no one ever teaches us how to be safe and brave, but this is my gift to you. One day, long after I am gone from this world, you will be able to come here and look out across this endless ocean without, without any fear in your heart. You are your mother's daughter, Clem. One day you'll realize that everything you need to be brave is already inside of your heart." Granny had leaned down and kissed Clementine lovingly on her little forehead. "I love you, little monkey, and I'm not going anywhere. I'll always be with you." She paused and lifted her hand to extend an index finger gently. "In here," her grandmother pointed. Clementine looked down and placed both of her hands over her beating heart. "In here, Granny?" "Yes, Clem, in your heart." Clementine opened her eyes and placed both of her hands knowingly over her heart. Clementine's belly no longer felt so icky, and once again her legs felt strong and steady. She began to feel another emotion arise from within her now, but it was much different than before. She felt strong. She felt determined. She felt brave. Clementine opened her big brown eyes and looked very seriously up at her mother. "I am not a baby anymore, Mom. I am growing every day. Granny Joy taught me how to be brave, and you taught me how to be strong. And yes, I'm ready to say goodbye, but not to Granny Joy, just her body. She never left me, Mom. All I have to do is close my eyes and listen, and she is with me." "Oh, Clementine," Mama cooed, "we are all so proud of you." Clementine's mother stood, reached down into her purse and pulled something out from inside. "Here, Clementine, reach out your hands. I have something for you." And that is the end, except for one more picture. Oh, and this picture, Jagannath Das did this picture. This one I did.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, do you want to look at it?
Mm-hmm.
And this is my son. Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. All right, I'm going to cut this off here. Go ahead and leave a comment. What do they say, Boo Bear, on the YouTube videos?
And subscribe.
And subscribe. And hit the
notification bell.
There you go. I just wanted to get that out there. Thank you so much for all of your support.
And actually, it looks like my eyes are gone.
There.
But I can't even see them.